Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Class Known Classics. This is episode number 2166 and Doubleshot number 2060. This is discussing issues for Supeboy and Legion of Superheroes, issues 224 to 233. Only 10 issues time, not 11. And I'm discussing basically also War Gremlins Aftermath. In these issues here, first 224, which is the last issue that Jim Shooter does until 238. He comes back one more time after this, and I think after this, I think he's done with Legion until 2000s. Yep, mostly put the guy on the cover. He claims he's Brainiac 4. He claims he's connected to Brainiac 5. It's proved to be a ruse. Yep. And here's a fun fact. This is the last issue Micro does interior for some time. Because with the next issue, with the exception of one, Joe Stanton does the interior artwork. Yes, and also starting with 225, with the exception of 227, we see a debut of Paul Levitz as the writer of this book, and he basically, if you think of him as terms of writer to Legion, he's just as important as a writer to Legion's history as Jim Shooter is. Yep. And aside from the fact we find out the ruse, and this guy actually does appear after this, but it's all like one story related to him. Yeah, there's 2-part like finale for this guy here. Mm-hmm. And 225 is the start of the Paul Levitz era. Which, yeah, this guy puts out a lot of really good stories. Mm-hmm. Yep, and just basically a good start for him, per se. The backup story is mostly it's basically a Paul Levitz story. It's just basically stuff related to a few characters of the Legion. I don't mind these backup stories. They're actually really good. Expands my Legion, but 226. 226 is noteworthy for one thing and one thing only. It's the debut of a character who, here's a shocker, still around this very day and very commonly associated with the Legion of Superheroes. So, like in the case of Jim Shooter, who created a lot of stuff associated with the Legion, because I think for some people, I think that, if you read early Legion stuff, it's basically standard stuff for Rage Fair. But once Jim Shooter came on board, he basically just not rebooted, basically. He had a lot of stuff to them that are still part of the very day. One of the biggest examples of this is the Fatal 5. Here's Paul Levitz basically putting his hand on adding to the Legion Superheroes. Here we have debut of the beautiful Dawnstar. Yep, this character right here. This issue is her first appearance, and she joins this very issue. You might be a little curious, though. How long had it been since we had a new team member join the team? Not very long. Like, prior to this very issue here, but we're in the, mostly in the Bronze Age-ish. The last one was Tonic. Yes, he was the last one to officially join a team. And we wouldn't have a new member join a team until issue 272. So it'll be a while. Yeah, it appears at first they were recruited like crazy. Like, if you look at like the early years, it seemed like it was every appearance we recruited like a brand new character with the Legion. That's the way it was a lot of the time. It's like they're recruiting people, and at some point I think they must have stopped, mainly because of the fact that, well, they probably had editorial mandate we should stop adding members. And prior to Wildfire joining the team, last person joining the team was Timberwolf. Yep, and basically during this period of time we had Wildfire, Tonic, Dawnstar. We had these two join in the span of like a few years. Mm-hmm. Yep, and Dawnstar would mostly keep this particular attire for pretty much up until present day. Yep. Just showing off this new character here. James Sherman is the artist of this issue. This probably Paul Levitz is the writer of this issue. But Joe Sand normally would be the artist, but this is a fill-in issue for him. It's fine. It's mostly just showing off the character, but it's all like, in case you're curious, a backup story. Yes, there is. Paul Levitz writes it with Mike Nisser as the artist. 5 Against 1 is mostly just a training session with Brainiac 5, like exploring stuff with him. For 227, it's basically like, oh, is possibly Superboy, oh, by the way, this issue here is noteworthy for one big thing. It's the first issue done by Jerry Conway. Yep, Jerry Conway. This actually is the very first comic book he would write for the Legion. Yep, and this is only issue number 227. Now, yes, he would come back later on. Don't worry about that. He basically came back. This was his debut. I did ask him when he remembered his Legion stuff. He did tell me this online. Apparently, he was suffering from burnout when he was... Now, this was just a fill-in issue. But when he did his actual run, per se, at the time, he was suffering from burnout. And apparently, Shooter, when I told him this, he was surprised to hear that. Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, by the way, Conway would take over when the book was retitled The Legion of Superheroes. If you're curious, though, did he do any more issues besides this one issue for Superboy and Legion of Superheroes? Yes, he would come back with issue 232. And he basically was a regular writer from 234. He came back basically sporadically, but he became a regular writer once 252 came around. And he was regular at the book up until 278. Yep. But yeah, basically this issue. Now, aside from the fact it's Jerry Conway's first issue, is there anything really new about this issue aside from building it with Brainiac 5? Not really. For 228. Like, which one of these superheroes would die at the hands of the mysterious villain? And if you're curious, though, will we have a death? Yes. Chemical King. Yep, he dies this issue. Jim Shooter character. Yeah, Jim Shooter basically created him, and it seems same shame though. The guy was not like a big character for Legion. Like, you probably think of this cover, oh, is one of the big members of the main team gonna die? No, Chemical King is the guy with the green coat. Yeah, he's part of the espionage squad when it comes to Legion. Yep, and Paul Levitz is back in the thing. He probably killed him a lot, probably because he was not necessary anymore. So we've had since this comic since Legion started. First was Lightning Lad. He was the first member to die, but he came back. Feral Eye was the first person to die and actually stayed dead. We also had this kid. Now Chemical King. We had 3 people die in the history of Legion. Though Visible Kid himself would actually have a new version in the 3-boot Legion, which, oh boy, this one basically, that version, like if you read that run, it seems like, though, his family basically were trying to destroy the Legions because he dared join them. Yeah. And it's sad to see we have a death of a character, but moving on. Then the Time Trapper is back. I think that's Time Trapper. This is, of course, 229. That was the debut of a character named Dragon. Yeah, and he appears just for this issue and the following issue. Appears for Secret Origins, and that's it for him. With 230, we have the single appearance of a character named Sedan. Yeah, this weird octopus monster, but it's standard Legion fare. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the second book is called Supeboy Legion Superheroes. He's not the main story. Oh, this is a noteworthy issue here, 230. 230 has a backup story where Bouncy Boy, who, by the way, had lost his power at age 200 and married the woman of his dreams, Duo Damsel. In the backup story, he gets his powers back. Yep, he gets his powers back. And keeps secret from everybody because they want to think he's still retired. Yep, so aside from the appearance as one-shot monster, mostly he basically is working with a guy, basically this rookie officer who basically is occasional ally to him. Basically, Officer Ron Dorvan. Yeah, Carrie Bates' character, which gotta love his design. Yeah, he made his return to this book. First appeared in 207. He comes back with this very issue, but here's something interesting though. After this one issue, he is never seen again until 312. Yeah, it takes him, after this issue, which by the way came out in 1977, it takes him 7 years to make a return. Yep, 7 years. And he became a pretty recurring character in Volume 3. Not much in Volume 4 per se, but yeah. But that's the big thing with 230. Return to Bouncy Boy's powers. For issue 231. Basically a giant size issue, which had, at the end of the issue, we have the apparent end of the Fatal Five, but don't worry, they'll be back. Don't worry. But I think Paul Levitz must have realized, so yeah, apparently kill him, but don't really kill him per se, because they're integral part to the Legion's mythos. And we have another Jerry Conway issue with 231. Probably not fill-in. So, basically disease that's affecting the Legionnaires' powers. That's most of what this is. Now, is there any noteworthy things else about this issue aside from that? And this is for 232. We have a single appearance of a guy called Lemune, but the main villain of the story is Dr. Regulus, who's the enemy of Sunboy. Yes, this is basically, now, he of course associated with the League of Two Villains, obviously, but he had previously appeared prior to this one. But thinking when was the last book he appeared in? Well, for this book anyways, the last book he appeared in was actually Supeboy 191. So it had been a while. So that issue, which was his previous appearance, that came out in 1972. And this issue came out in 1977, roughly 5 years. And you probably think, after this issue, when's the next time he shows up? If you're really curious, he doesn't show up again until Legion of Heroes number 286. Roughly 5 years later. Yes, another 5 years for this guy to make a return. But it's definitely a very interesting story. I like when they feature other characters, enemies, and other characters. Yep, and as for the final issue to discuss here, 233. By the way, next comic corner when I discuss Legion, it'll be the Superboy Legion Superheroes trades, which there are 2 of them. Which, for some reason, they don't start when the title was restarted with this particular number. No, they start with 234 for some reason. Probably because basically previous issues are collected in trade, so they decided to start there. This issue here is the debut of the Infinite Man. Yes, the Infinite Man. Yes, a character who, if you're curious though, does he return after this issue, you might ask? Well, by the way, it's a Paul Levitz issue. This is technically his first appearance. He made appearance 10 more times. Yes, after this one issue, he will return again in basically Legion Superheroes Volume 3, number 18. Yeah. An issue that came out roughly 9 years later. Yeah, so... yeah, but it's a very good, important issue. Aside from that, it's just a really fun issue, fighting a big, giant villain. And, well, that's it for Legion. I mean, I love the Legion Superheroes issues. I'm going to give these issues because these issues are really good. I give these issues a 10 out of 10. And that is the end of the stuff from the Archive Edition books for Legion Superheroes, because everything else mostly is from regular trades. Alright, next up is War of the Green Lanterns Aftermath. Yes, most of this trade here is done by Tony Bedard. We have the War of Green Lanterns Aftermath 2-issue miniseries. We have the final 3 issues of Green Lantern Corps Volume 2, which is the 61 to 63. And also the final 3 issues of Green Lantern Warriors. War of Green Lanterns Aftermath, that 2-issue miniseries. This picks up right where the final issue of Green Lantern Volume 5 leaves off, which was issue 67. Where Hal Jordan was stripped of his Green Lantern ring, all because he dared kill a Guardian who went nuts. You can see his mercy killing, so instead of basically just respecting him, nope, take away his damn ring. Yep, and also Sinestro getting a ring. Yeah, this basically will later lead to the Green Lantern Corps issues, which that will lead to his relaunch. Excuse me. Now, because of the fact Sinestro basically was re-added part of the team, and also, not only that, but also the fact that, well, the fact Hal Jordan basically was forced to be booted out the Green Lantern Corps. Basically, no one likes this decision to have Sinestro back as Green Lantern Corps and Hal Jordan, who should be a hero, be praised, and then he gets fired for killing a Guardian. There's lots of resignations. Lots of them. And of course, also pick up pieces for the death of Mogo. Oh, don't worry, he's not dead very long. Oh, no, he's not dead very long. He is dead for about 2 years. And if you're curious, though, how long does Mogo stay dead? Yeah, they basically would, because of the fact that the Green Lantern books basically were a continuation of the previous volume, he would magically come back in issue 12 on the very next volume of Green Lantern. Yeah, he would just magically come back. How? Never really actually explained. It's like, hey, Mogo's back for no reason. No, seriously. That's basically how that's how it's kind of explained. He just randomly shows up in issue Green Lantern, just randomly alive. So also, Sinestro is just forced to become a member of the team, and his whole stuff be explored in the relaunch of Green Lantern, still done by Jeff Johns, for about 12 issues before he gets lost in limbo and Simon Boss to go to the book for like 8 issues before Hal Jordan becomes the primary Green Lantern for the rest of the series. As to the Green Lantern Corps issues, most put there's the introduction to the Alpha Corps Lanterns, who become a primary player for the first 12 issues of the Peter Tomasi run for Green Lantern Corps, before he would leave. Now, he told me the reason why he left. This was, of course, one of the last times I met him. He felt it was time to go, and according to rumor, and he basically said this was completely untrue, that the reason why he left Green Lantern Corps was going to kill off John Stewart. And he said, nope, that is completely untrue. That was the guy who was supposed to succeed him, left the book because of that. And of course, the book, he didn't leave issue 12. Tomasi left with issue 20. And he got replaced by Ravity and Van Jensen for the rest of the run before I got relaunched after issue 40 to, I think it was Green Lantern Corps, Lost Army, and then was later, that was a McCullum Bun, and then was continued as Green Lantern Corps Oblivion, which is done by Tom Taylor. Yep. As in the case of Emerald Warrior, mostly put just two parties have Guy Gardner being, Guy Gardner hidden an alien, they get captured. The final issue just him team with Batman. Yep. There's not really much to the Green Lantern Corps Aftermath issues when it comes to the stuff for Emerald Warriors. It's like the main meat is the main miniseries and the Green Lantern Corps issues. Yeah. Of course, that book would end. And Guy Gardner's story will continue the pages of Green Lantern Corps Volume 3 and also just International Volume 3 as well. Basically, Green Lantern Corps became a book that featured on John Stewart, Guy Gardner, and Kilowog. Those are your three primary characters for that one. Sinestro, of course, like I mentioned, he would take over Green Lantern. First 12 issues, he would base in Limbo, and he would get back to the Sinestro Corps, and he'd get his own spin-off book, which was really good, by the way. And then that story continued in the pages of how Green Lantern Corps for the first story arc, and then he disappeared for a while, shows up as Superman, and then later on becomes part of the Legion of Doom. Yes, where he formed the Violent Lantern Corps, which proved to be nothing. But in the case of, by the way, the whole thing with Gauntlet, he himself basically would get, he basically would get himself screwed over by his fellow Guardians in the Green Lantern New Guardians book. Yes, where according to Kyle Rayner, he said the other Guardians, which by the way, all Lanterns knew these guys were complete dicks. Like, he said, you turned a popular Guardian into Darth Vader. Because having emotion is terrible. You are really bad if you have freaking emotion. Yes, that is how the Guardians' mentality were. Yes, a group of here's the thing. They try to put a Guardians in like how much they don't like the fact what they do. The fact that basically everything they do is wrong. And like, no, you're wrong. We're the boss. That is how they're written. Now, I don't blame Tony Bedard written that way. Because it is so obvious these guys are complete dicks. Completely dicks. Yep, but not much else to say about this book. It's actually pretty good. Mostly put, like I just mentioned, it just basically set up for the relaunch of all these books. That's what this event is based. That's what this whole thing is meant for. A setup for the relaunch. That's it. That's all it's there for. Yep. Alpha Lanterns will be taken out by issue 12 of Green Lantern Corps Volume 3 when they went rogue. They all got killed and there was no replacement for them. They do mention that Bakuda, who is a very beautiful alien woman, she got turned into a robot because of, stuff related to the New Gods. But yeah, not much to say about this book. It's good. So that's going to be, by the way, I'm giving this book a 9.5 out of 10. I could say final thoughts of Green Lantern Warriors, but there's not really much else to say for that book because if you look at that book, it's like you have a complete story arc with the first 7 issues of that book, a 3-issue tie into a really awesome crossover, and then like a 2-parter and a standalone. That's all you have for this series. Is it a terrible series? No. Is it all in trade? Yes, it is. My only final thoughts on it, just get your hands on the 3 trades I mentioned. Green Lantern Warriors Volume 1. There's only 1 trade for it because next one was War Green Lanterns. Get that War Green Lanterns trade and this book. And you got the whole series in trade. 3 trades. That's it. Really simple. Yep. So, yeah, that's it particular view. And that's going to be a video tonight. So tomorrow, stay tuned for comment and more anime. Okay, next video. Bye.